Hi, scholars. This is Mr. Johnston. And in our last video, we learned how to read a timeline. So in this one, let's learn how to make one. All right, so you're going to make a timeline about your life. And as you go through this video, here's what you need. You need headphones or earphones, especially if you're listening to this in the classroom. If you need to find them, you should be able to find headphones in the crate over at the side of the room. You need a pen or a pencil, something to write with. And of course, you need your worksheet, a timeline of my life. And if you don't have that, hit pause and go over to the side of the classroom and get everything that you need. Then come back and start the video again. All right, so here we go. You've got everything you need. Let's move on. The learning objective for this video is to make a timeline about your life. So it's that simple. Last time we learned how to use a tool such as a timeline to analyze a chronological sequence. And this time we're going to create or make a timeline. So after this lesson, you can be able to say, I can make a timeline, and I can make one too. And then that's also what I want you to do. I want you to make a timeline and then use it to introduce yourself to other students and to me. And so I'm going to make a timeline as well and use it to tell you about my life and to introduce myself to you. Before we do that, let's do just a little bit of review about timeline kind of stuff. So first of all, let's take a look at a timeline. So I'm going to be talking about my timeline. So here it is. But let's remember that when we are looking at a timeline, we usually see a title, which gives us some information. So obviously this timeline will tell you about something in my life. All right. And then we want to see, when does this timeline, what time does it cover? When is the time involved? And so my timeline is going to start in 1961 and go to today. So that's a long time. And if you look at the timeline, you can see that the intervals on this particular timeline are 5-year intervals. They're going to be 1-year intervals on the timeline I give you because your life's just a little shorter than mine. All right. Now, this timeline also could show you a lot of decades. And so those are two words I want you to know: interval and decade. Remember, an interval is the amount of time for each unit on a timeline, and a decade is a period of 10 years. So if you were to really look at this timeline, you could see it covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, over 6 decades. So I'm not saying I'm old or anything, but I've got some decades. All right, so for the assignment today, you're going to need the worksheet that looks like this. It'll say a timeline of my life. All right, and so what you're going to do is you're going to fill this out and make a timeline, and you're also then going to use it in a way to introduce yourself, because when we see it and read it, we'll be able to get to know you. So you've made a tool that will help us to learn who you are. All right, so first of all, in every assignment in my class, make sure that you put your full name on your papers, and that means your first name and your last name. And then always put today's date and the class period. So in this case, let's say we're doing this on the first day of school and you're in my 4th period class, you would put August 22 and you're in 4th period. But whatever the date is, you put that date on your paper, and whatever class period you have me, make sure you put that in there, and put your first name and your last name. That helps me to keep organized. All right, so we're looking at the worksheet. So we've got our name on there. Now let's take a close look at the directions. Please identify 5 events in your life and give a brief description of each one. And be sure to give the year and put them in chronological order and draw an arrow to the timeline. I'll show you mine in just a minute and so you can see what we're doing. But of course, you always want to carefully read the instructions on any assignment. So we've got some criteria here. You need 5 events. You need a short description. You've got to have them in chronological order. You've got to have the year, and you need to draw an arrow to the timeline. So be sure that you just read all of those little things right there. All right, so we're going to work on the timeline. So first thing you want to do is make a list of events from your life and make sure that these are events that you are comfortable sharing. And when you make your rough list, it doesn't have to be in any particular order. So I'm going to just make mine real quick here. I became a teacher at Gateway STEM High School, and that was about 2011. And I was born in 1961. I graduated high school in 1979. Let's see, something else. An important one was I taught summer school in South Korea in 2009. Can't forget, I got married in 1984, still married to my college sweetheart today. And a fun memory I've got is there was a time when I was in 4th grade, I got my picture in the newspaper. That was fun. All right. And that was in 1971. And before I became a teacher, I was a radio and TV broadcaster for about 10 years, from 1979 to 1989. All right. So now I've got more events than I need. I've listed 7 here. I only need 5, but so the next step I need to do is put these events in chronological order. All right, so we've got these events. I need to arrange them in chronological order, and that's what I'm going to use my timeline for. So let's start with a timeline and put all of those 7 events on here in order. So first, I was born in 1961. In 1971, I was in 4th grade and got my picture in the paper. In 1979, I graduated from high school. Can you believe I had that much hair? All right. And then from 1979 to 1989, for about 10 years, I worked as a radio and television broadcaster. And during that time, I went to college and I even got married in 1984. I was a teacher for a number of years from after that, but in 2009, I did a summer school teaching job in South Korea that was had a big impact on my life. And because of that, I came back to St. Louis, and in 2011 until today, I became an ESOL teacher, and I've been teaching here at Gateway since 2011. All right, so I've got my events. I got too many, though. I only need 5. And so I've selected 5 to put on my worksheet. So here's what my worksheet would look like. All right, so first I've got 1961. Notice I've got the date, a brief description. I was born on April 30 in Paris, Kentucky, and I've put an arrow to the timeline. All right, then the next one, in 1971 in 4th grade, I got my picture in the local newspaper. All right. Moving on, in 1984, I got married to Jane, my college sweetheart, and we have been married ever since. And then in 2009, I taught summer school in South Korea, and that's really what made me want to be an ESOL teacher. And I came back to St. Louis, and I've been an ESOL teacher ever since. And in 2011, I became an ESOL teacher at Gateway STEM. All right, so there's my timeline. And next, I want to remind you that when you make your timeline, you're going to select one of these events later to write a paragraph about it. So that's all you got to do to make your timeline. So good luck making it, and we'll talk more about that writing prompt in the next video.